Coffee with the Editor is proudly brought to you by IRZ.
Mandla, thank you very much for joining me. It's nice to see you here at SARA. You guys at Transnet Freight Rail, you're running a pilot on tracking your wagons. Tell me more about it.
Currently we're involved on the POC, which is a proof of concept for tracking wagons on the North-South corridor, which involve different countries in the continent: South Africa, Zimbabwe, Zambia, DRC is part of the content of this corridor. So the reason behind it is that as Transnet Digital Business, the main objective of the unit is to make sure that we develop digital logistic solutions. One amongst them is this tracking of the locomotives to track the cargo, because customers have been having this concern to say sometimes when they want to know where their cargo is, because we even ourselves cannot tell where the train is, then there's been a challenge. So now we want to track where the train is, but in this case it's more about the fleet. That's the objective of the solution, and we're testing it with the Transnet International Holdings, which is actually one of the units established about 2 or 3 years ago at Transnet to actually do cross-border projects which are involved within the rail, within the ports, part of the core businesses of Transnet in the continent. So we do collaboration and consortiums with operators or even some of the partners in the countries. So this is the reason we want to track this locomotive or these trains and this fleet, where they are, how efficient they are traveling, and also how efficient in terms of changeovers. Because in some areas we change the crew or we change even the locomotives.
Yeah.
So we want to know. In future on this, we will have some other features. For example, condition of the wagons. We will track that.
All right, so this being a pilot, you are testing or you're piloting it on 2 trains of 40 locomotives. And how many suppliers have you got involved?
Just to mention is we're tracking the wagons currently. In future, trains will track also the locomotives. So we're tracking about per train is 100 wagons, but we're tracking only 40 of that. For example, the first train which went away first, it had one of the wagons, 2 of the wagons had a problem before around Bites Bridge. So they had to come back. So we can even track that train, that wagon which was decoupled out of the train, back to the repairing depot, which is in Pologwane. So that's how efficient this is, because we are able even to do that. So on the train. So there are 3 trains currently. The 2 trains already, one is in Zambia already as we speak. The other one is just left Bulawayo, is between Bulawayo and Zambia. And the other train which will go to DRC is about to depart in Richards Bay.
Briefly before this all started, you said that there were 19 suppliers originally involved in the pilot, and this is now down to.
So on the partner, we have partners on this. As Transnet, we've opened this platform for all the role players who have any technology and which can actually accumulate or collaborate with in terms of collecting data, much insight. So even with the role players, the operators within countries where Transnet International Holding is operating, will also encourage them that they also feed from their technologies, from their data, from their information, because the more data we have, the better for the corridor for all players. So we had about 19 at the beginning of the pilot. The partners were involved, but through criteria which we are using in terms of elimination, then some of them withdrew voluntary, some of them, because maybe they were late. For example, they were the last withdrawal, they were late for the safety briefing. So we couldn't allow them on site after that because we take safety very serious. So those are some of the issues why some of them. Now we are about 15 partners who are left.
All right, and then what is the future? I mean, when this pilot project is finished, what is the outcome? What does the end goal look like?
The end goal is that it's the first time in the continent we're having such tracking. I think you do have such technologies in other countries like in the US or in Europe or even in Asia like China and that. But in the continent it's the first time we have such tracking. So we're looking at it as not just to use for the continent alone, because we know, for example, the conference here, the funders, they said, if actually technology is that strong within the operators and they are able even to fund more of those operators and to buy more fleet and all that, because they know their fleet is secure, the security of the fleet. So with that, that means it's a bigger, the beneficiary of this solution is not just the operators, even the investors. They have confidence of that the fleet is actually safe, is actually being maintained, is in the right condition, wherever in the country where it is, with no real time. Actually, tracking real time.
Yes.
There's no delay, latency in this tracking. It's real time, so we can track.
So ultimately, this is to improve efficiencies and see where the bottlenecks are. So you can see how long it takes you to get to DRC, and then how long the commodities come back. But there is other data that you're collecting at the same time.
Sure. We are collecting the data, for example, in terms of the tempering of the wagon in future. This is not on the pilot, but in future features like when there's a tempering on the wagon, we'll be able to, because the same tags will also pick up that. The other thing which is great about this, we can also track the weather condition, because we travel in different countries which have different weather conditions. You've seen recently in Mozambique there were floods. So we are able on this technology, on this solution, also to anticipate, predict the weather condition. If there is a weather condition like that, extreme weather condition, which will influence the operation, that means we are able to say, let's halt for safety reason, for crew and everybody else, will be able to do that. So it will add different features as we go along. As you're saying, it's more about productivity, the efficiency, and the cost effectiveness of the operation. Because the more you run an operation you don't understand, it's too expensive. As we're saying, also the investors, when they're investing and they know there is a risk of losing this fleet or security risk, then you pay more in terms of interest and all that. So once there's the security, then you pay less. So it's for cost efficiency also in the continent. And also, let's say, in a way, also getting to that integration, that regional integration, obvious with the continent integration eventually in terms of operations.
Especially on the north-south corridor. I mean, there's so much potential for that. And then tell me, how long is the pilot running for?
It's for 3 months.
Just for 3 months?
And for 3 months, the pilot will be able on this 3 months to know exactly what's happening. We've already collecting with these 3 trains already on site. We've already collected the data, which in the past we didn't. For example, the first train delayed a lot in Komarti. So it took about 4 or 5 days in Komarti alone.
Okay.
So now, but we know
but
the reason behind it.
Oversight,
yes, because of the changeover of the fleet of the locomotives. So that's what delays it there. So we are tracking all that. So we're getting a lot of. But it
so can your locomotive not run all the way through?
No, not all of them, because the infrastructure is not the same thing, and also the crew, because the crew and especially train drivers are trained on a specific fleet. So once you move to a different fleet, you need a different crew.
driver.
Okay.
So that's quite interesting. Are they looking at it as part of the north-south corridor? Are they looking at harmonizing that? So when you leave Richards Bay, you can go all the way with that fleet through? Is that the idea?
I think at the end of the day, once you have enough data, you are able now, even with the training of the drivers, we can influence the training. so that they understand what are the challenges or the issues within certain countries, so that if they need to be trained on those things, so that one driver can take through. Obviously, there is issues of fatigue and all that. We're not saying somebody will drive all the way, but in terms of going through other countries, once they know what are the requirements of that country, because we'll be able now to put it on the platform. Even the customs, even how the clearance on the customs, those are the things which are going to be even more efficient, because like for example in South Africa, SARS is part of the pilot in terms of how they do the clearance, so that we can fast track the clearance through the borders.
So 3 months you get all the data and then you decide on the next stage of the program, or do you then decide, okay, these are the suppliers that we're using, we're standardizing the equipment? I mean, what happens after 3 months?
So currently we are what we call RFI, which is request for information. So what we're gathering information. That's why we have so many partners who are involved in it. But once we understand from these 3 months, we'll know exactly who's got which technology. Because also, again, we were talking earlier with the team that some of the tracking is through the mobile technology, like for example, your SIM card, your 3G technology, the telecom. But some of it is from satellite. So we'll now know where the telecoms, in terms of like the mobile, is more efficient, or the data is more even faster, or even the satellite. Even from cost effective point of view, we'll know where actually the costs are more expensive, especially with the roaming cost. It could be from data point of view, could also be expensive, and we'll understand that, and that will assist us in terms of the next phase, which is now the request for proposals.